vitamins and other supplements, they actually do better. They eat better. They feel compelled to do better because no one wants to spend between $50 and $80 a month and still eat like crap, right? The great thing with ideal nutrition is that even when you still eat like crap, you're getting your body what it needs as long as you're honest on your health assessment. So the first thing is that with our products, we provide solutions. So it helps to facilitate conversations. As a doctor, in my practice, it's easy for me to talk to patients about taking the health assessment as part of my clinical practice. But when I'm out at Giant, which was the case a couple of weeks ago, I was buying a couple of gallons of water. And the lady says, "My goodness, are you drinking all this water?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Oh, okay, well, how old are you?" And I gave her my age. She said, "Well, you look good. That must be because you drink all that water." I was like, "Well, thank you very much." She said, "Yeah, girl, I can't get all that water in." So it clicked, solution. I said, "You can't." I said, "Well, what's the problem?" And she said, water's so bland. I just happen to have some hydrate in my bag and a business card. And I said, "Well, what I want you to do is get one of these little 99-cent Deer Park bottles, put this in there. I bet you'll be done with that bottle before the end of your shift." Gave her my business card. She signed up, took her health assessment, got her some hydrate. So even as a physician, thank you very much, people make assumptions. That if it's not part of some sort of clinical process, that it becomes a difficult conversation, right? But if you do it in regular life, I was on Facebook. One of my sorority sisters, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, represented very well. One of my SANs posts, it's like 3 o'clock California time. I'm up because I'm always up. It was 6 o'clock. She said, "Sleep is such a distant memory for me." Text message, Facebook message sent, both, because I was like, just in case she doesn't have Messenger, let me hit her up on the phone. I was like, "Hey, Sans, let me send you some sleep strips. See how you like them." I said, "Now, 1 or 2 strips may not do it justice because when your circadian rhythms are off, it takes a little bit of time to regulate those things. Here's the link." So you know how you can change your landing page to provide solutions for all kinds of things. Boom, there you go. She's on it, does her assessment, gets her sleep strips. So it's that kind of approach that we at corporate, especially on the Sci-Med court, want you guys to take into consideration, because if you are not a health and wellness expert, if you're not a fitness ambassador, if you're not a physician, sometimes it can be very, very intimidating to initiate those conversations. And we know of all kinds of people in our families, our friend circles, our sister circles, our sororities, fraternities, etc., where they're having those issues. You know that 75% of Americans don't get the veggies and fruits that they're supposed to. And even for those of us who do, given the soil content, the way in which vegetables, the produce is grown, none of us are getting the nutrients that we need. And it was part of that process when Darrell approached me, because actually I'm on his downline, he's my upline. When he first approached me, I was like, "Dude, I eat well. You know, I'm not all up in Panera every day getting what he calls pokey bake," because apparently that's what they call it in the Marines, the sweets. I was like, "I don't eat like that anymore. I've changed my ways. I'm good. I get organic, because everything organic must be 100% bioavailable. And I get my little, fill-in-the-blank multivitamin. I'm good. I don't need this." So he was like, just check it out. I need your professional opinion. You're my nutrition half. Because we always joke and say we are each other's business husband and wife. And he said, "Well, you're my nutrition half. So what I need you to do is just check it out, take the assessment, make sure that the evidence that they're linking makes sense." So I did that, and as a physician, I'm very skeptical. I had actually considered going into law when I was in college and doing both degrees, because I'm just that skeptical. I'm like, So I looked at it. I even did a PubMed and a Cochrane database comparative analysis to see if they were just cherry picking things. And the recommendations they made sense. And then I started doing some more research in terms of the bioavailability of nutrients in foods, because part of that back office stuff that he shared with me even before I signed up spoke to that. And I was like, "Well, I've heard that, but let me research a little bit more." And as I learned more and more about nutritionally how we as Americans are being treated compared to European countries in terms of what America allows in our food system, and I could be here until 3 o'clock talking about that, it made me think, okay, as healthy as I eat, there's still space for me to improve in terms of my nutrition. Having hypertension in my family, it's the black folks package. It's diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, etc. And I tell patients all the time, your genetics are the bullet in the gun. your behavior and now your supplementation are what pull the trigger. So when you think about it in that way, everyone, regardless of how healthy we maintain our lifestyles, there is space for supplementation because it's necessary in the 21st century. So keep that in mind when you approach folks, letting them know that as healthy as you eat, as phenomenal as your body may be, there is still space for improvement because none of us get 100% of what we need. And I would be lying to you if I told you every single day I got in my 5 fruits and veggies. That's always my goal. There are days where I will only get in 3, and I'm devastated that I don't get them in. But then I know I have my ID Nutrition to make up that difference. There's that space for that. So first thing, we all needed 2 solutions, all right? The other question that I commonly get is clinical practice. So everybody has doctors that they're trying to hook in, and I usually get asked to sort of serve as the hook. So to get on the phone, conference calls, etc. And as you guys can imagine, IDLife is not all of me, right? Because you heard just today, I saw patients starting from 8 o'clock till 9. I saw 3 in 1 hour, and when you're doing weight management nutrition, that's not a quick visit. The 15-minute visit that you get at your doctor's office, that's not what I do. I like to get all up in your business and really figure out what's going on with you nutritionally. And then to run over. So there are lots of things on my plate in addition to being a mommy and a wife, etc. So what I tell people in general, when you're approaching a physician, a healthcare provider, you have to make it make sense for them. It can't be a sales pitch. And I think that's one of the beauties of IDLife, and one of the things that attracted me to it compared to other companies that had approached me was that there's no sales pitch. You go in there being a product of the product. So when I went to my doctor's office, we always have conversations about the things that I'm doing, and I said to her, and as graciously as a way as I could, I said, "You look tired." She said, "Yeah, girl, I'm just stressed. I've been going through some stuff in my personal life. Being a solo practitioner is hard." And I said, "Well, you know," I said, "You drinking coffee?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, you know you get that high and then you get drop real low?" She's like, "Mm-hmm." She said, "I get that about 10 o'clock. I said, "Well, you should have some more energy." And she was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, one, the literal term energy, but I got something for you." Boom, energy in my purse. Because I always need some energy, right? And I gave that to her. She says, "Well, what is it?" I had my little info sheet. And that sparked a conversation. And it wasn't that I was like, "Oh, when I go see my doctor, I'm going to get her in it." I wasn't even thinking about that. She literally looked tuckered out. And I was like, "You look so tired." And that facilitated the conversation. Because we as physicians, we get drug reps that come in. Everybody and their mother is trying to get us to do something for them in terms of their business. Whether it be coming out to talk, selling a product, having a product in their space, etc. But when you make that personal connection, and you are either a reflection of the product, because the last time you came in there, your cholesterol was 250, your blood pressure was off the chain, and you were non-compliant with your medication. But then you come in there, yeah, I said it. But then you come in there, you're still non-compliant, but your blood pressure is better. She's like, "Well, I know you didn't refill your prescription because I haven't gotten any requests." You can say, "Well, I've been on ID Nutrition. I've been doing better with my sleep. I've been using ID Wellness in terms of setting my goals. I did a weight transformation. These are the things that happened for me." It sparks attention. Because for us as providers, what we don't have time to do is provide that one-on-one weight management counseling in the primary care setting. It's just not the way the medical model is designed. But if you can provide them with a solution to affect change in their patient population that does not put the responsibility completely on them, because very few providers are going to create meal plans. Many providers don't have the capacity to do it, either because of time, but mostly because of knowledge. But they have a tool that they can use. So when you open that window and start that conversation, it's, "Oh, they have all kinds of stuff in IDLife. Let me show you." Have it already up on your phone. If you know that when you go in to see that provider, this is a part of that conversation, have it ready. Have it ready, because they're going to be interested. But it's all in your approach. If you go in there trying to sell, before you say your first sentence, they've already shut down and shut out. You can send them an assessment all you want to. It's going to go in the circular file. It's going to be deleted, all right? You can't go in there with a sales pitch. It has to be that personal connection. And I would, even when I am on a conference call with providers, that's what I will tell them. And we'll get into the logistics of practice management and blah, blah, blah. But they don't hear any of that in practice incorporation if it doesn't speak to them in terms of, how is this going to affect me? Because to be honest with you, as a doctor, the first question I ask is, how is this going to impact my time? What is it that I have to do? And then you get the eyebrow, like, what is this? But if you show them that this is almost autopilot, like, doc, this is what I do on my own. I got my 3D avatar, look at my progress, make that part of your visit, you're good to go. There are going to be some, because of lack of knowledge, that are still going to be opposed to supplements. I got a text just 3 days ago from someone who said, well, the doctor said we don't need supplementation. So I sent him a link to an article to explain in terms of the richness of food and those sorts of things as it stands in 2016 to sort of educate him. And one of our goals on the Sci-Med board is to actually start enhancing med school education so that the doctors that come up after we get our millions and our next generation, that next gen line comes up through IDLife, it makes it easier to facilitate the conversation because providers, whether they be physicians, nurse practitioners, or physician assistants, because they should all be included in that conversation. Don't just target doctors, target everyone involved, nurses, you name it. They will be better educated to fully appreciate the awesome blessing that we have in this company. That's it. Thank you for your attention.
Yes. All right.
You want me to take some questions?
It's up to you.
It's fine. I can take questions.
But tell them what we're going to do with the whole healthy eating, because she told me we were having this conversation about food last week. And how many times have you gone out to eat this year?
In 2016, I took my husband to dinner on the 18th of March for his birthday, and that was it for this year. Yeah.
I want to be like you when I grow up. That's some good stuff, right? But she said we're going to start this whole healthy recipe group so that we can start making healthy meals at home, because I have the desire. I don't know if you guys are like me. I have the desire to do that. I don't know what to do. I'm like, chicken this way, chicken that way. My kids are like, if you bring another rotisserie chicken in here. So she's going to start that for us. Who's interested in that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to put more work on your plate.
Right. What it will do is expand the variety and the diversity of what we eat. So the plan is for me to sort of kickstart it and give you guys sort of that first week, and then what every person will do, because all of us know some of what needs to be done, if not most of what needs to be done in terms of maintaining a healthier lifestyle. Why people pay me good money to just tell them what they already know, that's on them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jesus. I'm not going to say no. But what we can do is facilitate. And if as many people as there are in this room, imagine just one recipe that you contribute to that. Next thing you know, it's a cookbook. You see what I'm saying? It's an IDLife cookbook that we create based on the recipes that we create. And one of the reasons I always, tell folks, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And what usually happens for folks, if they do not plan ahead, that's why you end up eating out, is because it's 7 o'clock p.m. You're trying to get your family together, get them fed, get that homework done, get them to bed, so that your next day will move smoothly. And what ends up happening is it's easy. It's the economy. It's the economy of time, the economy of money, right? And so you save time, you spend a little bit of money, and things happen quickly. Or you spend some more time, eventually save some money because you're planning so far ahead. Like when we went for ID Revolution, my husband was here by himself. All he had to do was go in the freezer, pull some stuff out, thaw it out, heat it up, and eat it. Because I knew if I did not, you know what would happen. Y'all know, I ain't looking over in anybody's direction, but you know what might happen if you don't plan. And so that's part of this process.
I love it. I love it. So that's going to be some good stuff. Because remember, this is all a movement. This is a movement, and so this is a critical part of educating and informing people to be more healthy. So I want to respect our time. Questions. We want to get some questions asked. Okay, go ahead. Stand up so we can all hear you, please.
One question I had, when I was telling the doctor what I was on as far as the IDLife nutrient, right? They said that it wasn't good for me because I was urinating most of it out. Could you address that?
Sure. So, so what most doctors understand is that of the vitamins that you consume, majority of it, depending on how it's blended, you will excrete. What they don't take into consideration is one of the things that Paul Sullivan did, and that's something called chronobiology. And what chronobiology does is it allows perfect timing of certain vitamins to be absorbed. So for instance, omega-3s, and this was actually something that I learned through ID Nutrition. It wasn't something that I knew on my own. I took all my vitamins together in the morning, including my omega-3, and stopped taking it because it reminded me of the horrible cod liver oil that my grandmother used to make me take back in Louisiana. And I hated it. I started taking mine in the evening. I digest, metabolize, and absorb it much better. There's also the pairing of certain vitamins that makes sense, that allow for more bioavailability. So for instance, vitamin C and iron, right? If you pair those two together, it actually enhances, vitamin C enhances the absorption of iron. You don't want to take calcium when you take iron because calcium binds iron. So all of those things we took into consideration in the creation of the product to facilitate better absorption. What he is speaking to is that you'll get your vitamin E and it'll be 50,000% of what you need. That's what he's speaking to, and that's not what ID Nutrition does. It makes no sense to give you 50,000% of vitamin E because your body is going to do exactly what you're saying. And ID Nutrition took that, or Paul Sullivan took that into consideration in the making of the product. You're welcome.
Quick question regarding the medication somebody might take and the side effects with the nutrition. As somebody I'm working with right now, they take about 15, 20 different pills for kidneys, and their main concern is that if they take the assessment and the medications with nutrition, they might have different side effects.
Right, so there are the evidence that's used in terms of making those algorithms, as long as the medications are in there. When the medications are in there, it shows that there's evidence of either a need for a certain supplement or it protects you from taking a certain supplement. The challenge in that is only if the medication that the person is on is not in the assessment. And the reason why it isn't is because there isn't sufficient evidence to support the use of certain supplements, or there's not enough evidence to show that there's any interaction. When you think about it, even in the foods that you eat, folks get certain vitamins and nutrients, right? And there are specific medical conditions where the patient will be told, do not eat X. So if you're, for instance, on a blood thinner, you have to be very careful with vitamin K. So I'm going to tell you from a nutritional standpoint, make sure you pay attention to green leafy vegetables, reduce your consumption, etc. But I'm also going to tell you to be careful in terms of supplementation as it relates to vitamin K. The great thing with ID Nutrition is that it's based on that information. So if there is information that links to the contrary or in support of certain things, it will be identified as part of that assessment. Yes, ma'am.
I had a young lady who was really interested in it, but then she disclosed she was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So my response obviously was, don't talk to your doctor first before you do anything, but just sort of curious, any information on that?
Right, so in the formulation of ID Nutrition, there is a question that asks you about whether or not you are pregnant. That helps to trigger some of the algorithms in sort of that the background that facilitate recommendation for specific nutrients. It makes sense. You want her to take ID Nutrition. I certainly wish that I had ID Nutrition when I was pregnant. I took every organic vitamin under the sun to protect my little one. But it takes pregnancy into consideration, and the same vitamins and supplements contained within ID Nutrition are similar to what you would find in any standard prenatal vitamin. But better because, one, you have methylfolate as opposed to straight folate, so it facilitates absorption, and you have cobalamin, which is a better form of your vitamin B12. So she would actually do better to be on ID Nutrition than she would on a standard prenatal vitamin, and you don't have the additives, because my prenatal vitamin, the original one my doctor tried to give me, had some funky red color dye thing in it, which is the reason why I was like, I'm going to go find my own. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I had actually two customers who were taking the shake, and they were experiencing headaches. And I was wondering if that had anything to do with chia having phytoestrogens in it, if there could be like a sensitivity to that.
So in our shake, our shakes are soy-free. They have a hint of stevia in them, so there's a small population that's sensitive to stevia, so that may be why they're experiencing headaches. And that's usually the most common link between taking the shake and having the headaches. Most of the time we hear a little bit about bloating and gassiness, which is why I was so elated that we now have a vegan shake, and that's because of the whey protein. Even though it's all cold filtered and blah 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 blah, there's still some sensitivity to it. So what I would also tell them to do is to pay attention to calorically what else is happening, how soon after consumption of the shake that they're experiencing the headaches, to see if there's a definite link between the two. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I'm a nurse and I work in labor and delivery, and I spoke with one of my obstetricians about IV nutrition, and she looked at a couple of my vitamins and so forth. But her thing was, well, you know, there's not enough clinical documentation. Where can I find that to shoot that to?
So the best thing to do is the Ys that are linked to the recommendations for your, if you wanted to share your assessment and what your recommended supplements are, allow her to peruse through that list. That's what I did for myself. I did it for my maid, were things that I would have told my patients. And then beyond that, like there were certain things I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Let me double check it real quick. So I did a PubMed search, and if she's truly that interested, you can let her know. You say, well, when I heard from one of the docs on the Sci-Med board, she actually did a PubMed search to see what the evidence was compared to what's in my Y here, and it supports it. Yes, sir?
Are we at any point going to be moving towards packaging the IV nutrition vitamins for vegans?
Very good question. That comes up over and over and over again. The challenge with packaging it in a vegan form is that it would be cost prohibitive. They've considered it, and it's definitely something on the table, and when and if the product for so that it's the casing of the vitamin, it's bovine, which you heard Uncle Bob say, yes, that means cow. So it's wrapped in bovine, which, I mean, it gave me pause because I don't eat beef. I haven't fully transitioned yet. I'm on my way. It's just baby steps. Baby steps towards that vegan lifestyle. I got to make sure I get my protein in. But we are definitely considering it and continuously paying attention to the price point so that when it makes sense financially for the consumer, we will provide that as an option. All right, one more question. No más? No más preguntas. ¿Qué está pasando? Entonces, muchísimas gracias por tu atención.
Wow, wasn't that amazing?